Welcome to another edition of Patty and the Millennials. I have great conversation with some wonderful ladies. Mina Say What from the Power 99 Morning Show is joining us via the phone. Dr. Heather is joining us today. Lisa Collins, Tamara Stewart, Troy Barnes. Ladies, hello.
Hello.
Hi.
I wanted to talk about sexual responsibility. How important condoms, STDs are rampant. You hear these stories, Usher, married, sleeping with women, passing it on. Whose responsibility is it? I'm going to get your opinion, Tam. Is it the man's? Is it the woman's?
I think both. We're adults, and if you're going into a sexual relationship, you should be able to make that grown adult decision like, hey, we're starting to date, we're liking each other, we want to take it to the next level. You know, have you gotten tested in the last 6 months? If you did, what were your results? And talk about it amongst each other, because I think that it's obviously something that's really cruel to have something and not share it with your partner, especially if you know it's going to go to that next level.
Well, it's what's happening. Doc, how important is it for sexual responsibility with your work with the health department, and you teach about condoms and things like that? I'm just astounded with the number of STDs that are out now.
Yes, it's very important because just like Tam just said, in theory, that sounds amazing and great. Like, we want to do that. You want to walk up to someone and say, hey, I like you. Let's date and then say, hey, what's your paperwork say? Or let's go get tested. That's not happening at all. People aren't even talking. They're not even having a conversation about people's past and, hey, let's go to the doctors together. Oh, no, I went to the doctors last week. I'm cool. And that seems to be enough for people. So I think sexual responsibility comes along with sexual assertiveness and sexual self-esteem.
Mina, sexual responsibility is up to the man or the woman.
You know, in theory, it would be nice to say both should be responsible, but I've only met one man in my entire life that wanted to put the condom on. And that's just being honest. Like, most of the time, the men don't want to wear condoms. So I think, you know, women have to be a little bit more responsible about having that conversation, because we are supposed to be the communicators. It's sad, but a lot of our men are not the best communicators. And I think that more women need to be very assertive when it comes to that department to say, hey, this is my body. You're entering my body. I need to make sure you're good. You know, first of all, we need to get condoms. Second of all, we need to get tested, because if you don't have the conversation for yourself, it's not going to be had. I've never had a guy ask me for papers, ever. You know, and like, it's not something that they do. So if you can't control something, the only thing that you could do is change your actions and change how you approach stuff. So I'm a woman, and obviously, so I'm going to make sure that I'm asking the questions that need to be asked.
This is our podcast. We're talking about sexual responsibility. Patty and the Millennials. Doc, there are a number of condoms. So if it falls on the woman, we need to know what kind of condoms there are.
There are a lot of condoms. And I just want to add, I agree with everything that you said, Mina, because it is up to us, because men don't generally whip the condom out, you know, because they make these assumptions and they say, oh, she's pretty, she's clean. What does that actually mean? Someone looks clean and pretty, you know?
Yeah.
So back to all the condoms. There are so many different condoms. I actually bought my bag with me to show the women.
Your bag of condoms.
My
Get the bag, Heather, Dr. Heather.
Yes. So there are ribbed condoms. There are extra thin condoms, because people complain about, oh, I can't feel things. But guess what? Get a thin condom and put some warming lubrication on it if you can't feel the warmth, because that's kind of some of the feedback the research gets from men about condoms. So they're trying to make the condoms so they won't get the feedback that it's getting, so they can use them. There are extra large condoms. There are extra large condoms. There are regular condoms. There are flavored condoms. There are latex condoms, sheepskin condoms.
Wow, go ahead, Tam.
So my question is, why does it look crazy when women pull out their bag with all these condoms? Not all the condoms, but if women are carrying like the magnums and the Trojans in their bag, like, God forbid your bag falls on the floor and out spills out a condom. She's a hoe. She's sleeping around. I'm trying to be safe.
Although I don't like that word, but you know what? That's what we're labeled as, a hoe, because we have a condom. Not in other countries. Other countries like Sweden, we could say teenager, 16-year-old girl pulls a condom out. Guess what kind of look she gets? Oh, okay, so she is safe that's amazing. And she says, I'm just prepared. And it's okay. It's the stigma we have over here in America. That's why we have schools for pregnant teens, and they don't.
We're talking about sexual responsibility on this edition of Patty and the Millennials. And we're learning about condoms. Lisa Collins is here. Is it up to the woman, the man?
In theory, it should be both, but I am all about taking care of self. And I'm not going to even front, and I'm looking out for myself. I'm going to make sure that I'm safe. And anybody who's not down with that, then we can't hook up. That's not going to happen.
Troy, just graduating from college.
Yes.
The college life, that young scene. Where's the condoms?
Oh, they better be in your, not in your wallet, because if they're in your wallet, they get messed up. So not in your wallet, but you better have them somewhere on your person so that you can whip that thing out, because I'm not doing anything without a condom. That's just a no-go, because there's so many crazy things that are happening now. What is it called? Super gonorrhea? You got strep throat and you don't have strep throat? No.
Yeah.
No. Get your condom out, because if you don't have it, I'm out. Bye.
Okay, Doc, I want to ask you this. Me personally, I was shocked to hear the story of Usher. I think someone deliberately leaked it. But when you have this herpes, he's married and he's still sleeping without the condom, and he's the superstar. And it's like, what is wrong with you?
Lack of education. Just because he's a superstar doesn't mean he has a proper education. How was he raised? Who gave him the education that he had? Hopefully he's more educated than he was, but I think it's evolution too. When you don't have education growing up in schools about human sexuality, you kind of learn in the streets and you learn from your friends, and you don't necessarily learn the right information. So maybe he didn't have the right information about the alleged herpes that he has.
Mina, we're talking about, sexual responsibility. How wrong is it when someone isn't honest that they got an STD?
I mean, I think that's really grimy. I just think that if you are aware that you have something, you should let people know. But people don't do that, because the second that you tell someone, hey, I have herpes, I'm not going to stick around. There's no way I'm having sex with you if you tell me, hey, I have herpes. Bye, boy. I don't even want to go out on a date with you. And that's messed up. But the issue is I wouldn't even entertain you if I knew that there was something that I could potentially catch from you. So that's why people don't tell other people. But if you have something as serious as herpes, and he has herpes syntax too, so that thing doesn't go away. If you have something like that, then first of all, you shouldn't be having multiple partners like that. Unprotected sex, that's A. And B, you should tell people, hey, I have this thing that I can't get rid of. But in Usher's case, I think the whole celebrity thing might have gotten to his head. Sometimes celebrities think they're invincible, and because they're given whatever they want, and they're treated differently, and they're treated special in a lot of places. So, and clearly he got away with this, because the first lawsuit that came out was in 2002. He paid the girl $1 million, and she went away, and we didn't hear anything about it until someone leaked those documents. So clearly he thought that this is something that he could sweep under the rug, but he can't do it anymore because now it's public.
I have a question, Doc. Isn't it, I understand what Mina's saying completely, but it's all about being honest about your sexual history. And then, how have people with herpes been in, successful relationships without passing it on to another person?
Good question. I was actually thinking that when Mina was talking, because I do know several people. I've had clients, and I know someone who recently got married who disclosed that she had herpes very early in their partnership. So they weren't intimate. She told him after maybe I want to say 2 months of dating. She said, Heather, I just have to be honest. This is the first time I'm going to be honest, because I feel like this could be my husband. And I want to tell him the truth. I want to give him the opportunity to make decision on his own, whether this is something that he can deal with, and I'm going to educate him at the same time. And that's what happened. And he said, oh, no, I'm already smitten. I don't give a darn about that. That's something teeny. You're a fabulous, wonderful person, and I love you already. And that's what happened. So you can make the decision early or later. But I do believe you should disclose to your partner about things that you can't get rid of. If you can't get rid of this and you could potentially pass it to the person, yes, because that's their health. So I do know a lot of successful relationships and marriages that because herpes doesn't stay, it goes away and comes back. There's also medication you can take, Valtrex, and there's other things that you can take that are generic brands of Valtrex that you won't ever get a breakout. I know people who've never gotten breakouts but have been diagnosed with herpes, but never gotten an actual breakout from having herpes.
We're talking sexual responsibility. Chocolate Divinity is here. You know, the responsibility of a man or a woman, because besides herpes, there's things like chlamydia. And a lot of women, they can't have children because of years of getting infections, and their reproductive system gets destroyed.
Oh, this is a very touchy subject. I know we probably weren't trying to personalize it, but again, I can only come from my own experience. I actually had a situation where I was talking to this guy, and I really think he was one of my soulmates. We got to a point where, you know, it was about to get intimate, and he was like, listen, I have something to tell you. It hasn't really been a big issue in the past, but I feel like if it's moving in that direction, you need to know. So he's like, I have to take a little blue pill every day. And I'm like, what you got, AIDS? Like, I'm like, well, what do you have? Like, I didn't know. But I kind of felt terrible because once I heard that in my mind, I completely shut down, and he knew it. And I don't know. I feel like now maybe in a state of my life, I could probably be a bit more understanding. Okay, let's have a conversation about it if I was educated on it. But then, I mean, honestly, it's like people do get that stigmatized. Like, oh, you have something you can't get rid of? I can't mess with you. But again, now they have what is it? Not the chlamydia, but the gonorrhea.
The super gonorrhea.
The super gonorrhea.
Yeah, it's not going anywhere.
But you know when you have gonorrhea, that's different.
Well,
gonorrhea is a burn. It burns and it's green. That's why when they were saying the green, I'm like, that's not really herpes. That might be gonorrhea.
So
but
how can you be diagnosed with having herpes, but you've never had a flare-up?
Well, you go to the doctors. Yeah. If you get they do skin like tag testing, and they do your whole gynecological workup, which a lot of people don't know. Sometimes when you go to the gynecologist, you need to ask for the entire workup.
Yes.
People just go and get a pap smear and an STD check. That's not enough.
Right.
You need to get a workup, which is everything, which is the panel, the STD panel, the pap smear, the bacteria test, like they take some out and put it under the microscope right then and there. Like there are different, and a blood and tag tests.
Yeah.
Okay.
They'll charge you extra for that too. Like my doctor told me that the pap smear I think only tests for like gonorrhea and chlamydia or something like that. But if you want to test for like HPV or like anything else, it's a different test. But I also wanted to say that like herpes is a virus. People live with viruses all the time. That's what HPV is as well. So that's why some people might not be all the way educated about it. You might not be having a flare-up. Same thing with HPV. You might not be having a wart, but it's the virus is there, and your body becomes immune. It kind of learns how to work with the virus because your body kind of fights it on its own, from what I know. So you can live with it, but that doesn't mean that virus is going to have the same effect on somebody else's body. It might cause flare-ups and things like that in someone else's body.
Or even if they're going to catch it, because there are a lot of relationships where people don't catch it. They use condoms. Sometimes lube prevents it, right? That's why I always say use lube. And they just don't catch because they don't have a flare-up, and they're doing good. Stress is also something that flares up herpes as well. So you got to live a stress-free life and be safe. And you will never catch it sometimes as a partner.
Wow, we're talking sexual responsibility on this edition of Patty and the Millennials. Ladies, thank you so much. Mean to say what? Joining us via the phone, Dr. Heather, who is a real sexologist. She teaches us and schools us, and I thank you for joining us. Lisa Collins, Chocolate Divinity, Latoya Charleston, Tamara Stewart, and Troy Barnes. Thank you, Patty and the Millennials. You can find us here at WDISFM.com.